know I do. I love going to the Japanese restaurants whenever I can, just to go. But then, what if I tell you that you guys won't be able to actually eat that anymore? That your health can be at risk just by eating that. Today, I'm going to actually talk about the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant disaster that happened in 2011. Now, you guys might be thinking that this is quite a while back, but then right now, that is pretty an issue. I'm going to talk about exactly what happened in Fukushima, and then why you guys should be concerned about it, and exactly how it is affecting us. To start off, let me start off by actually talking about exactly what happened. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that an earthquake caused a tsunami to hit the nuclear power plant and then caused it to explode. But then the World Nuclear Association actually put it in more detail. What happened is that the earthquake that actually occurred at Fukushima is one of the powerful earthquakes that ever hit Japan. So the tsunami that caused by that earthquake was actually pretty huge. And then that tsunami hit the power plants, especially reactors 1, 2, and 3. Now, at that moment, it didn't really actually do a lot of impact at the reactors. But what happened was that one of the reactor 1 was damaged and then caused overheating and then caused a reaction between water and zircon, creating hydrogen gas. A day later that the impact was that actually happened, the hydrogen gas was ignited, causing an explosion to reactor 1, and then following days, reactor 2 and 3 exploded as well. And from this explosion, huge amounts of radioactive material was actually flooded into the ocean. Now, this overall thing, you guys might be thinking like, it's not really important to you guys because it actually did happen in Japan, which is actually pretty far away, and we live in the East Coast and everything. But then the importance is that this actually can be affecting us even right now. What happened was that back in 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster actually happened, and then reporters of that researchers actually stated that it doesn't matter where actually the nuclear power plant actually hit the accident. The impact can be actually happening all over the world, no matter what the situation can be. And then as predicted, it came out to be true. The Infowars.com has actually announced that researchers have found cesium-134 and 137 on the west coast of Vancouver, east seawater, which is pretty close to our seawater as well. And cesium-134 and 137 is known to be one of the most dangerous radioactive particles. Now, people did predict this was coming, but then people actually denied it. But then now it's actually proven that it is a problem. And then the Chernobyl report says that all these effects can be actually damaging us. But then, back then, there was only one reactor that actually caused the accident. But the Fukushima nuclear disaster was total of 3 reactors. And so Dr. Yabolko, which is the author of the Chernobyl report, claimed that it will actually cause a more serious impact than it did back in 1986. So now you guys know that exactly that we should be worried about it, and tell you exactly what can happen to us. When a radioactive particle hits our body, you know how our DNA changes like a ladder twisted? Think of it as it's getting shot by a bullet, how it's going to be like. And then, of course, our body is going to try to repair itself, but then during that process, there's an error that can happen. Like, a little piece missing maybe, and then that can happen all over our body. And then from that, our body can be exposed of many different diseases. And also, this error can cause every part of our organelles to be exposed to it as well. Asahi News, which is one of Japan's leading newspaper company, has actually reported that the number of patients for thyroid cancer has doubled in the last 6 months and actually increased by 300 after the Fukushima disaster. And then the Chernobyl report actually reported that the number of leukemia cancers increased by 2.5 back in that accident. And then he actually predicted that the Fukushima radioactive particles will actually cause more damage compared to that. A Korean documentary was actually filmed pertaining to the situation and how Japanese people are actually adapting to that environment. And then interviewed one of the families who actually moved away from that environment because one of her children was actually showing signs of leukemia and other signs of cancer as well. And then there were a lot of families who actually moved away because children are actually more exposed to it, because as they grow up, they're open to more changes to their bodies. So as I concluded from the overall speech, you know, what happened, why you guys should be actually concerned about it, and exactly how it can actually affect us. The Japanese government is trying to hide this. Like from the Fukushima update, which is an official site where they update the information, said that they actually announced this yesterday, that it is okay to actually move back to Fukushima because the radioactive, the level is actually quite down now. But the funny thing is, the Korean documentary team who actually went there about a month and a half ago did a research, and then their radioactive rating was 10 times higher than the actual rating. And then the more funny thing is, they have a public square where they actually show the radioactive of that area, and then that place was only showing us 3 times higher, but then the real one was actually 10 times higher. People say that they're trying to cover this up because they're trying to hold the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and then they're trying to quiet down, but then, you know, just wanted to share it with you guys that you guys actually should really be concerned about it, because it's not actually just Japanese people that's really affecting, it's actually the whole world. And then, even though we live in the East Coast, like I mentioned before, we love seafood, so